What is up, guys? It's your boy Sleep Deprived Cacus, and today we have the guide for how to complete the legendary difficulty campaign within the Final Shape expansion just added into Destiny 2, going over a bunch of tips, tricks, loadout recommendations, and more. Now, if you are able to complete this, you will be rewarded with a full set of extremely high light gear, which is going to massively help with the leveling process, as well as getting to pick one of the two new exotic armor pieces for whatever class you beat it with. And so, let's get started. Now, right off the bat, a big tip is that your activity power is disabled throughout the entirety of the Legend campaign, which means your power level does not matter. So don't be afraid to transfer old weapons at the base power level of now 1900 from your vault to your character depending on what you need in that moment. And you don't have to be worried about, infusing stuff during the campaign too much, as well as only using the stuff that's your highest power. Now, sometimes during the campaign, you will be made to go and do different activities such as a strike, but again, for the actual missions, it is activity power disabled. Now, on top of that, another big tip here, guys, is your fireteam size. So the difficulty of the legendary campaign is going to scale on how many fireteam members there are. And actually, a solo player is going to have the easiest experience in terms of killing enemies fast and so on. And then 3 players are going to have the toughest enemies to kill, but of course they have the firepower of 3 whole players. Honestly, guys, my tip to you is that we were playing 3 players at first, and then 1 player was having massive issues with the servers. In fact, well, we all were. What a launch day. But overall, it became massively easier when we went down to a 2-person fire team. The enemies were just significantly easier to kill, and then you still have a teammate to back you up if you do die. So definitely try to get a fire team of 2 if possible, if you're looking for the easiest experience. Moving on from there, let's talk about some loadout recommendations. Now, for the entirety of the campaign, as soon as I got Prismatic for my Titan, that's what I stuck on, and so did my teammates. So I don't think you have to put together a super optimized non-Prismatic build in order to do this. Obviously you can, but we didn't find it necessary. However, I do have some weapons that absolutely stood out. First of all, it's the Red Death Reformed. Now, this is the Seasons Pass exotic, so if you're someone who did purchase the annual pass for Final Shape, then you have access to this immediately. That's what I did. I claimed it on the first campaign mission, and it pretty much stuck on my loadout until the very end. This is an extremely good weapon. It's going to give you Cure ×2, a massive amount of healing every single time you get a kill. Not to mention, pulse rifles got buffed to the moon in this expansion. This was extremely good. After that, for a bunch of the campaign, I did end up using the Call, a new Strand rocket sidearm. This was very, very good. However, I would actually highly recommend that at least one person in your fire team uses a sniper rifle. I ended up switching to this Supremacy. Obviously, this is like a god tier sniper, but frankly, any sniper would do. Now, why is that? Well, you're fighting the Dread throughout the entirety of the campaign, and that means actually quite a lot of tormentors. So having access to someone with a sniper rifle to break those crits and then to absolutely unload in the stomach was very useful. And then you're also going to be facing a bunch of other enemies and mini bosses and bosses that a sniper rifle is actually pretty good for. Now, aside from that, in terms of my heavy, it was just, a solid rocket launcher or a grenade launcher for basically the entirety of the campaign. That did me quite well, with the one exception being the final boss fight, which we will talk about in a sec. It is quite challenging. I did switch to the Briar's Contempt linear fusion rifle. Now, moving on from there, guys, in terms of some abilities recommendations, well, I would highly recommend that you bring something for crowd control, whether that's stasis freeze, whether that's a blinding grenade, and how I accomplished that with my Titan was the shackle grenades. So I actually think the Titan is the weakest of the 3 in terms of the prismatic subclasses, but my goodness, shackle grenades were insane. And why that is kind of what I talked about earlier. You were fighting the Dread the entire time, with some exceptions obviously, but those guys have some powerful new enemies and they have a ton of tormentors. Well, you can suspend those tormentors as long as they're not classified as an actual boss, and oh my goodness, once you can suspend those guys, it made a lot of encounters a lot easier. Especially with the Prismatic Titan, you not only get shackle grenades, but your Transcendent Grenade Electrified Snare will also suspend enemies. And there is a lot of portions of this campaign where you're using the Wellsprings to get back your Transcendent energy, which means that you can spam your Transcendent grenades over and over again, and once you lose Transcendence, you go back in the Wellspring and get it again. So having access to a crowd control Transcendent grenade for the Titan, again, it actually turned out to be incredibly useful within the campaign. Now, aside from that, again, Diamond Lance was actually a lot better than I thought, providing that crowd control, freezing a ton of different enemies, and initially you unlock Blade Fury, and again, you have more elements of crowd control, being able to suspend, but once I did unlock the Twilight Arsenal Super, I switched to that. It's pretty good. Weaken, it's kind of like a Titan version of a Nova Bomb. It was actually quite good in terms of DPS when we fought bosses and so on. Again, I played a Titan, but these same things, these same tips apply to whatever class you're playing. Crowd control, stasis, suspending, all that stuff was very, very useful. After that, guys, let's move on from there and talk about the mechanics and the puzzles you're going to encounter throughout this campaign. Because frankly, the Final Shape campaign had the most mechanical complexity of any Destiny campaign I've ever played. It's actually more similar to a dungeon, and there's going to be a lot of people at a certain part in the campaign getting stuck wondering what to do. Well, this is going to be a brief overview that should help you with, again, all those puzzles you're going to encounter. Obviously, this is going to apply to both normal and legendary. It's just that while you're trying to do the puzzles on Legendary, the stuff shooting you hurts a lot more. Now, one of the first complicated puzzles you're going to find is with this section here when your way is blocked and there's 3 big pillars of darkness, kind of light. Now, what you need to do is go around to these different areas that have a clock on the ground. You can actually rotate this clockwise or counterclockwise depending on which side you put your psionic insight in. So around here there's going to be these taken scions, you kill them, and actually how many you kill depends on how much you move this clock forward. So if you kill 2 scions and then activate it, as you can see, it will move 2 ticks, and you're simply trying to line up the point of this device with the glowing point on the clock. So obviously, like, if you have to transport a long way, go and kill 2 scions, 2 ticks, get 2 more ticks, and then once you line up with the glowing light, you're good to go. Again, if you overshoot, so you accidentally go one too far going clockwise, for example, you can always go and kill 1 scion and then apply that counterclockwise and you'll move back to where you need to go. And then some of them just have 2 pillars of light where you have to line it up in 2 different locations. Then moving on from there, the next kind of big puzzle you're going to encounter is within this section. What you need to do is, once you've gained that Aegis of Light, the big shield, you have to kill these Hive Knights with either the shield or just normal weapons. If you kill them with the shield, they will drop light motes. If you kill them with normal weapons, they will drop darkness motes. And then you have to apply those motes to these different platforms in the correct order. Now, initially, it's really not going to be too complicated, but then you're going to get to this area with a ton of different options. So, when you actually try to apply these, if you do it wrong, you're going to see the notification, the path begins with light. It's trying to tell you which one to start at. And actually, if you do fail, you can see these different platforms have different numbers of those light pillars on them, and those numbers are going to indicate the actual order you need to plant them on. So go from 1 up and up and up in the number of pillars on these platforms. So for us, the solution was simply this light platform near the exit, the dark platform on the opposite side, the only other light platform, and then lastly, the darkness platform, like right near kind of where you started. Now, after that, you are going to be using that shield relic more, but more often than not, you're using the super ability that charges fast with it to take down bosses' immune shields. Now, moving on from there, the next mechanic you need to know about is Glyph Touched. So, killing certain enemies will give you the Glyph Touched buff. Once you have it, often where those enemies died, you can see, as you can see, a certain symbol. So we have like the PlayStation triangle right here. Then, often with the glyph touched buff, you need to go and find this symbol elsewhere. So you can see there's 4 separate symbols kind of blocking this door. You simply need to walk over that PlayStation triangle symbol and then it will open up. And this same mechanic is going to be present in many, many other campaign levels beyond this. Again, it's like getting the glyph touched buff, finding out where the symbols are, usually again they're where enemies died, and then going over and standing on and activating the correct symbols in order to unlock or progress something. Now, as you continue forward through the campaign, another mechanic that's going to be introduced to up the complexity is the kind of poison air mechanic. So you are going to be poisoned, damaged, as you can see right here, unless you're able to shoot one of these like darkness nodes, and then you get the shielded from darkness buff. All of these different mechanics are going to come up within further boss fights. So a great example is like this boss fight right here, guys. It's going to have a completely immune shield big like ogre here. So what do we need to do? Well, we have those transcendently shielded enemies, so we have to go find the wellspring. Then we have to attack these guys while transcendent to take them down, take down the blights. When the blights are down, what's going to happen? Well, those darkness nodes are going to kind of spawn in the very center of the arena. Once you shoot the object, you get glyph touched, and then once you shoot the nodes, you get shielded from darkness. That lets you hop into this portal and go into this area that would otherwise be poisoned. So you have a timer on shielded from darkness. If you're not constantly shooting these nodes, then you will get poisoned and you will get damaged. While you're in this separate area, we're looking for these big hulking knights right here, and when we kill them, as you can see, you actually do have a symbol that they drop that you can see with glyph touched. So once we know the 2 symbols, we go out back through the portal, and then we look around this arena and go and stand on the 2 correct symbols that we saw when we were inside that poisoned area. Once we activate the 2 correct symbols, the immunity shield of the boss will go down. Then you're going to have the, guess what, shield spawn again. Often you're going to use this shield to break these immunity shields of the boss, as you can see right here. And so those are really the mechanics you're going to encounter throughout this campaign. They're just going to stack and stack and stack until eventually, like that boss fight, you're using all those mechanics to complete something. The one other thing I want to talk about, however, is the final boss fight that's kind of right after that, because again, it's a doozy. So for this boss fight, you're going to be in this arena, and you're going to notice the big bad witness is here. They are completely immune, but you're actually going to see in the left corner of your screen, the witness unleashes an attack. Whenever you see that, you need to stand behind cover or else you will get clapped. And while you're avoiding those attacks, there's going to be a bunch of red bars, as well as this boss right here, the subjugator of the Fluxon. So you're going to need to kill this boss, or at least lower this boss's health enough to progress this encounter. And again, we ended up actually using a sniper rifle plus a linear fusion, right? This guy's head can be a little challenging to hit, but both of those weapons are extremely ammo efficient. Like, even if you're missing a few shots, you're able to get this boss down to where they become immune and you can progress the encounter without wasting too much ammo. If you're using stuff like rockets, it can definitely be a bit sketchy. You get the boss down, but then you're out of ammo and you're like, okay, what do we do now? In any event, once you do get the boss's health down enough, then you're going to see these darkness objects spawn around the map. You need to go and shoot these to get shielded from darkness. That's actually going to let you go through this passageway right here and go and claim the Shield of Light. So once you get that Shield of Light, you actually need to go and use the super attack of the relic to break the boss's immunity shield, and then run back to the center of this arena and then block the witness's attack. So if you don't block, you're going to die. And if you block in the wrong spot, you're also going to die. You actually need to make sure that you're blocking specifically on this like crack of emulating light right here with all your teammates inside. Now, once you do get past that witness's attack, you're going to have the boss available to be damaged again, and this time Once you take this boss down, a light imbued sword is going to spawn in the center of the arena, as you can see right here. So you take this sword, you kill some enemies moving forward, and then interact with this statue. You're teleported into this area here, and then after some dialogue, you can actually smack one of these statues, and as you can see, that will take a chunk out of the witness's shield. So then you're going to be teleported back to that same arena. This time you're going to have that poison effect throughout the arena. So you will need to shoot these darkness nodes and get shielded from darkness just the entire time. You're going to have this buff up while you are dodging the witness's attack, while you're damaging the boss, killing ads, etc. Now, the same mechanics are going to apply once you get the immune shield. You head over to get the light immune shield. However, it's on the opposite side this time because you used up the other one. So you're going to grab that shield. You're going to use its super attack to get rid of that immune shield of the boss, and then you're going to shield block the witness's big attack within this light crack within the floor. After that's done, you're back to damaging the boss. You're back to killing the boss. Once the boss is dead, you get another light, imbued sword spawn, and then you're able to grab that and go back into this area and smack another statue and take another chunk out of the witness's shield. However, this time when you get teleported back, you actually have backup. Your allies are here. You have Cade and Zavala and everyone also shooting ads, and you're just going to fight a bunch of ads as well. You actually don't need to get a shield for this part. Just eventually that light imbued sword is going to spawn yet again, and then you're going to do the same thing and smack the final statue here, guys. After that, you're going to be almost killed, and then you're going to be presented with a shield. One of your teammates needs to grab this and use it to block as you make your way forward through all of these projectiles flying at you. So just make sure to be going from these light areas where they're spilling out of the ground, from one to another, so that the shield has enough block. Now, there are some areas off to the sides where you don't have to block, but again, every time you're crossing over the middle section, you better be blocking. Eventually, you make your way all the way to the end, and congratulations, you have now beaten the legendary campaign. You have some cutscenes to pay off your venture, and then after those cutscenes, you will be sent back to the social space within the Pale Heart to claim your legendary campaign rewards. Guys, that is going to be it for the video. I hope you enjoyed and found this informative. If you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickCacus. That is linked in the description down below. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.